is ended. The Atari 8-bit podcast.
When I applied for a copyright on this, there weren't really a lot of guidelines for copyrighting computer programs back then.
This is Antic, the Atari 8-bit podcast. I'm Kevin Savitz. Richard Wiitala was author of Number Blast, an arithmetic teaching program that was published by Atari Program Exchange. Number Blast first appeared in the winter 1981 APX catalog, where it won third prize in the education category. Here's what that catalog had to say about Number Blast. Number Blast by Richard Wiitala, recommended for ages 6 to 16, written in BASIC. Who doesn't like color, sound, and action to perk up tedious memory drills? Here's a 1 or 2 player number drill combining quick thinking and quick reflexes. In the 2-player version of Number Blast, you practice your multiplication and addition while working your joystick to blast the correct number more quickly than your opponent. But be careful, incorrect answers cost you points. Depending on the kind of number drill chosen, either the first to score 200 points or the player with the higher score at the end of a set number of problems is the winner. In the 1-player version, you can practice your joystick techniques and response speed while blasting your way through the drills. You can select a slow, medium, or fast joystick speed. Number Blast offers practice in random addition problems with numbers ranging from 1 to 20, addition tables from 1 to 9 with one number picked at random, and integer addition problems with numbers ranging from -20 to 20. It also offers random multiplication problems with numbers ranging from 1 to 12, multiplication tables from 1 to 9 with one number picked at random, and integer multiplication problems with numbers ranging from -12 to 12. The author invites written questions and comments. Review comments. The joystick aspect of Number Blast, which is quickly mastered, makes this number drill fun for youngsters. The program also uses color and sound to enliven the drills. The user manual is very good. Requires Atari Basic Language cartridge, a set of Atari joystick controllers. Order information. It was available on cassette, which required 16K of RAM, cost $12.95, or diskette, which required 24K of RAM and cost $12.95. It was APX catalog number 20097. This interview took place on February 1st, 2016. After we talked, Richard sent me 23 pages of scans of his correspondence with Atari Program Exchange, including the letters that included his royalty statements, and info about basic language upgrades and software compatibility with the Atari 1200XL computer. Those are now available for your perusal at the Internet Archive. There's a link in the show notes at ataripodcast.com.
I've been always interested in electronics and stuff since probably age 10, 11, 12 in that neighborhood. And when I graduated from college in, I guess, 1970, home computers and stuff like that didn't exist. And I did run across some Ohio Scientifics later on, and was kind of impressed by them. But as far as my teaching career goes, I was in math and science and physics and so forth, and I was actually teaching at the middle school level. And, of course, as you probably know, computers really made an impact on a lot of teachers, and consequently they put them into classrooms, or they scraped up money to buy a computer here and there and stuff and to get started. And we had a group of people in our school system that liked Atari computers. And they did see them at a conference that they went to, and I wasn't there, but when they got back, we managed to buy a couple of Atari computers, and it was kind of, expanded in elementary school quite a bit, and then a little bit up to the middle school. And that's when I got interested. It was in the early 80s, and of course, it was probably 1980s, I think, when we got our first Atari computer in the public schools.
Where was the school?
Marquette Public Schools. And it was probably elementary buildings. And we did have get one at our middle school. We had some fundraisers and stuff like that, and I was kind of involved with that. Anyway, that intrigued me quite a bit, and since I was teaching math, I wanted to work on some sort of program that would help kids mentally do math quickly in their head primarily. It's addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, of course, and also working with positive and negative numbers. So that's kind of the concept and idea. How I wanted to, reason why I wanted to develop a game type of thing that kids can play that would help them do mental math type of thing in their head and try to do it quickly. And that was in 1980 and 81. I think in 81, in the spring, I wrote my program Number Blast. And going back through some old papers here today, I saw that I claimed that it took me about 6 hours to write the basic program, part of it, the start of the program, and then I tested it and got input in from users and stuff like that, mainly students, my family, my daughter, and my kids and stuff like that, kind of gave me some ideas, and then that summer I submitted it to Atari Program Exchange, which was kind of exciting, and I guess I wasn't going to, but a few of the teachers that I worked with and stuff said it was pretty good, so I should do that, so I did. And what happened from that is I got into the fall catalog, or actually the December catalog, and I won third place prize for the educational division of that year, so I was pretty excited about that. We got the third place prize was only it was quite a bit then. It was $750 worth of Atari products, and so with that, I already had my 800 computer for the cassette drive. I bought a 810 disk drive and a couple of books, David Atari, and I think I bought Microsoft Basic for the Atari, and that pretty much ate up my prize money. It didn't take long to do that, but it was kind of fun, and it got me some new equipment, and I did have a lot of fun with Atari computers, personally and kind of sort of professionally. And the program did sell fairly well, and I just found a sheet that the APX Atari Exchange in June of 1983 it was still the number one seller in the educational division. So it hung in there for a couple of years. And I think the APX kind of went downhill, and I think it ended in '84, so it wasn't too bad. And I think Antique probably took over APX distribution then. So it was kind of a fun program. It's the only one I ever did as far as selling, commercially for Atari or anything like that. I did a lot of little things kind of on your own. You just kind of play around and do this and that, and some things that weren't able to be marketed. So, but I know a lot of kids improve the math skills with the program, especially in our own school system, and it was a lot of fun. Especially every quarter, royalty check came. So that was kind of fun too.
So it sounds like you still have your royalty papers there. I'm really curious to.
Oh yeah, I saved them all someplace, and I haven't been able to find all of them, but I guess I've got all the letters they sent, most of them with quarterly checks and stuff like that. So I don't know why I saved them, but I did.
If you'd be willing to scan that, I've never seen any APX royalty statements or anything. I'd be curious to see what information they give you. If you have a way to scan that or something.
I could probably scan one in and send it to you and stuff like that.
That'd be awesome.
I was looking out too. The first brochure that they enclosed with Number Blast was a stapled together type of paper thing, and then I think it was, I can't remember, maybe '82, maybe that summer in that neighborhood, they repackaged it and did a typeset booklet, and it was kind of a nice booklet, and that's the one that sold most. They had, I don't think they sold too many right in 81 and the beginning of 82, but I think my biggest sales were probably, I'd have to go back and look at the checks to see when the biggest sales were, but they always lag behind sales a little bit. But it was a lot of interesting times, I remember Paul Cubbage, I talked to him a couple of times on the phone on the program, and he wrote me a letter saying he really liked my program, so I was pleased with that. And he made a couple of suggestions for changes, and I made those changes. And he was a fairly nice fellow to work with.
Nice.
And let's see, who else did I deal with out there? I can't remember a lot of names. I could probably dig them up, but there's a lot of people who write back and forth. It was before the days of email, too, of course. And
right. And there was
phone calls were expensive, so you normally didn't call. It's all by letter correspondence, and that slowed things down quite a bit. But
did you ever get any feedback from teachers around the world or students who used your program or anything?
Well, not around the world. A few of them in the U.S. I think it looks like. They sent us the reviews. Sometimes I got a letter, not too often directly to me because my address is in the program booklet, and most of the time it was through the APX. They had a form they could fill out and send in, and they compiled them and just sent me a pile of forms. So it wasn't the type of game that was an arcade type of game. And
right.
I think about that time, middle 80s and stuff, the arcade type of games really sold pretty good. And it was kind of just a text graphics type of thing, but it was little bigger text graphics. I don't know if you've seen the brochure on it or anything like this.
Yeah, I played it this morning to review.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My math facts are great. I'm really good.
It was, the other things that I kept in mind in design that I kept very little off the keyboard. All the motions and everything was done with the joysticks and the start keys and the option key, if I remember right. Try to use those rather than people have to type in commands. So it made it a little bit easier for kids to get started with, other than actually loading in the basic
right.
basic program is how we ended up doing it. I did compile it for my own use and it loaded automatically, but I never sent it on to Atari or anything like that because I was probably, after APX was kind of winding down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But it was that was kind of the idea, just all joystick rather than simpler input methods rather than trying to type something in.
Right. Yeah. Well, I like how two kids can play at the same time, and it's kind of a race to see who can figure out the answer fast enough.
Yeah.
Just using the joystick.
Yeah, I don't know I haven't tried it on kids nowadays. As a matter of fact, I don't even have an 800 anymore.
No.
But I guess I wouldn't mind trying to get an emulator and load it up on something and just go back to try it again, dig up some joysticks or whatever,
right.
Make some new keys to it or something like that. But it's I would think that nowadays, kids don't do a lot of mental math, and a lot of people don't either. They want to add up two numbers, they go look for the calculator, and they don't do a lot of mental math. And that was I kind of saw that trend starting with kids in school. They didn't want to do anything in their head. They had to get I think calculators were just starting to come out when I wrote that program, and kids would have a tendency, I want to get a calculator to figure out some simple math rather than trying to do it in their heads. So that was the other reason for writing the programs, to try to speed up mental arithmetic in their minds.
So your career was teaching, has been teaching? Do you still teach?
Yeah. No, I retired from teaching in '98, and I started working at the IT department in the public schools part-time. And then another job opened up in a community mental health system in Michigan and in the IT department. And so I moved to a different town, and that's where I'm living currently. And I'm just about done retired from there now. But I ended up kind of starting out there, and I ended up as the IT director for about 10 years. It's not quite 10 years. And so I kind of went from teaching into information technology type of things and networking and that kind of stuff. So my last part of the teaching career, I was involved pretty heavily in computers in our district and taught computers at the middle school level and worked on district committees as far as getting computers into the schools and classrooms, networking and doing record keeping for the teachers and stuff like that. All the computers being networked together and stuff. So it was kind of fun, and that's how I ended up going into the technology department after I retired from the teaching. And in between all that, middle 80s, early 80s, I can't remember exactly when, a friend and myself started up a computer store, which we ended up deciding it took a lot more time than we had to put into it. But we sold Atari computers, and
What was your store called, and was the store in Michigan as well?
yeah, I was in Michigan. It was called Superior Land Computers. We were up next to Lake Superior up in Marquette. That's where we were.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was kind of a common name up there. And we never got rich, and we did help a lot of people get started in computers and stuff like that. And Atari kind of waned, after the 8-bit went out. They had the ST series, and then those sold fairly well. But it seemed like IBM compatibles and stuff like that, when they really started to come down in price, they took over the whole market. Commodore kind of went away and stuff like this. And the Atari STs, they still had few people that were really kind of diehard type of people, and they kept on with them. But as far as selling an awful lot of them, they didn't sell as well as the IBM or IBM compatibles. And of course, by that time in the schools, it was pretty much Apple, and also then the IBMs kind of came along and took over and kind of somehow coexisted with Apples in a lot of school districts, and that was the same thing with the school district I was at. Atari computers were pretty much delegated to elementary schools, and they were also dealing with Apples and stuff all throughout the whole K-12 system. So it was kind of hard competition for Atari because, we used to have a kind of a joke, so nobody ever got fired from a job for buying IBM or Apple. But some of the other off-brands, it kind of went by the wayside. But, it's not to say that Ataris didn't have a lot of good educational value to them. So even through the 8-bit all the way up to the ST series. So anyway, we ran the computer store. Finally, I think we had to close in the late 80s, early 90s. It wasn't open that long, but it's the sales weren't quite as good as we expected, and they weren't. I guess we didn't have as much time to put into it as we needed, and we didn't have a lot of revenues to hire a lot of staff. So, but we did a lot of work with them. Did a lot of service, especially on Commodore 64s. They were kind of a gold mine for service. They were easy to fix, and there was a lot of them out there. So that kind of boils down in a nutshell the computer store aspect of it. But Atari computers and getting started with that in the early 80s with my programming and stuff like that propelled us into that too. So I'm not sure what else to add, but
I was just going to ask, is there anything I haven't asked you yet that I should have?
I just trying to think in my mind here what it is. It's when you called the other day, it was really kind of, thinking way back, bringing up a lot of memories. And I was kind of glad I saved a lot of my old APX catalogs and stuff like that. And kind of went through them and stuff, and dug up my third place prize plaque that I have, and it's kind of a nice walnut plaque with Atari Star on it. And
nice.
It was kind of a surprise to me. First I got a letter from Paul Cubby saying it was accepted for publication at the APX. And then, I don't know how much longer, not that much longer, I got a letter saying it won the third place prize. And I think I remember talking to him on the phone that if it would have been submitted a little bit earlier, I probably would have been in the summer competition, and I probably would have been a first place prize. But that's hindsight,
Right.
A couple of years ago, somebody else had called. You're probably aware of this. They wanted permission to put the program on their website, and they got archives for Atari software.
Right. That was me, and that was like 15 years
you?
ago. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Let's see. That was a couple of years ago. Was 2000. I think we
was that when it was?
I think so.
I remember I had an email down here when I lived, because I've only been in this place now since 2001. I had the email here, so you must have.
It might have been a couple of years later, but
yeah. Time goes by fast, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. Yeah, I got a lot of them online with permission, and then it got the Atari time is now so far away that the philosophy of many of us old computer archivists now is just like it's easier to get forgiveness than permission, and most people don't care anymore, and so we just try to archive this stuff before the floppy disks rot away. So
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that because a lot of that stuff's gonna be kind of fun. It's still got a lot of Atari parts.
Yeah.
Not so much for the 8-bit, but a lot for the STs and stuff like that. But I ran across a box of cartridges the other day too, so
Nice.
so I don't know. It'd be kind of interesting to find an 8-bit machine I can plug them into again and see. I don't know if they're still existing or not.
Well, they're out there. I mean, thrift stores and eBay are your best luck. Well, actually, there's still stores that you can buy them new old stock. I mean, these guys bought this stuff from Atari, back in the 80s.
Oh, yeah?
And so, yeah, you can still buy a brand new in the box 800 XL, for a couple $100. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what we were selling them for, but they weren't, I don't think they're that much.
Yeah. Well, now you've got 30 years of storage to pay for. So.
Yeah. The other interesting thing is when I applied for a copyright on this, there weren't really a lot of guidelines for copyrighting computer programs back then, in the 80s. And I remember dealing with the Library of Congress. They sent me a survey and stuff, and what I thought, should be copyrightable and stuff like that. It's kind of interesting because a lot has happened since then on those issues. But back in early, it must have been early 81 when I applied for a copyright on this, was they didn't know too much about it or how to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
So that was interesting, another interesting aspect.
So you ended up copyrighting it though, and you
Yes.
managed to do it. Good.
Yeah, I think it's expired. I'm not sure how long. I have to dig those papers up someplace, but
I don't think copyright expires until you've been dead for 50 years. So.
Well, I'm still alive.
Yeah, right. Well, yep. So it's still good.
I don't know what it's good for, but at least it's there.
Yeah, I don't think it's good for much anymore.
Yeah. So that's good. So you had an 800 computer. You have a 48K one?
Yes, it was 48K. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one that had the plug-in memory modules, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, I remember taking the 8K ones and upgrading the RAM on them. That was kind of an interesting project. Soldered the old RAM and put in the 16K chips.
Oh, wow. I mean, not even just putting in a new module, but unsoldering
No, they were
RAM
expensive.
Yeah, right.
Those new modules weren't cheap.
Was this part of your computer store or just your personal
hobby
project? Yeah.
And I can remember, the Honors originally only came with 8K. Or was it 16? Might have been one 16K module that came with them. And that's how they kept the price down. But, those modules were, I thought, a couple $100 each, if I remember right. And I think might have been that Michigan Atari Users Group that had a thing in their newsletter on how to do that. So it was interesting to do that kind of stuff, and I always enjoyed mucking with electronics and building things, and so that was kind of fun.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All righty. Take care. Thank you.
If you enjoyed these interviews and would like to contribute something, I encourage you instead to donate to one of our favorite organizations, the Internet Archive, at archive.org. The Internet Archive is a nonprofit digital library with the stated mission of universal access to all knowledge. They've done incredible things to preserve computer history, including hosting thousands of programs in an in-browser Atari emulator, creating the Wayback Machine, and offering full-page scans of countless Atari computer books and magazines. Make your tax-deductible contribution at archive.org/donate.